Have you ever been sitting across from a friend you've known for a long time and suddenly realize you don't feel like yourself around them anymore? Like there's a distance between you both that you hadn't felt before? Today, I want to talk about what happens to our friendships and relationships when we're changing on the inside and how quietly painful and lonely it can be when the people in our life still expect the old version of us to show up. Hi, I'm Diane Hatz, and welcome to A Writer's Life. This is where I talk about personal transformation, especially in midlife, as well as creativity and what it looks like to change your life from the inside out. When I went through my last big life change, when my career fell apart and I outgrew the identity I built around my work, I didn't understand what can happen to friendships and what can happen when we start to grow out of who we used to be. If we dig deep, we might find that some or a lot of our relationships are built around our old selves. They're built around who we were when we were overworking, overgiving, people pleasing, or playing certain roles in order to belong. Well, I'm talking about myself there. And when those roles start to fall away, the relationships that formed around them can start to feel off. For me, it didn't happen all at once. I didn't wake up one day and decide I was done with everyone. It was much more confusing and subtle than that. And it took a while for me to see that this wasn't a right or wrong thing, that neither I nor the friends had done anything wrong. Things had simply shifted. But at first, before I understood what was happening, I blamed myself and thought there was something wrong with me. I'd go to a dinner or a gathering and feel awkward or out of place, more so than usual. And I'd come home thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just relax? Why can't I just be how I used to be? How come I'm not having fun anymore? Sometimes I'd be in conversations where people were complaining about work or talking about some drama in the same way we had for years, and something in me would just feel off. Like I'd get this metallic, heavy feeling in my stomach. And I eventually realized I didn't want to judge or gossip or stay that old version of myself anymore. I was only continuing to do it to try to fit in and stay connected with my group. And instead of realizing I was changing into a better me, I told myself that I was a terrible friend and I was too judgmental. I would also hang on to any friendship because I didn't think I'd find other people who'd want to hang out with me. So I tried to keep showing up to the same kinds of interactions with the same energy, even though it didn't fit anymore. I laughed at things I didn't actually find funny. I stayed in conversations that left me feeling drained. I said yes when I wanted to say no. I still didn't know how to set boundaries and walk away when something didn't sit right. Little by little, I started resenting people, not because they were doing anything wrong. You do you. But because I wasn't being honest with myself about how much I was changing and that I might not agree or want to be part of whatever was going on. I was looking outward to blame rather than going inside myself and realizing I just no longer fit. One of the hardest parts for me was realizing that some friendships were built around my people pleasing and inability to set healthy boundaries. So, for example, I had a friend and we'd started working on a project together. And she's not a bad person at all, but we had a big blow up over, I can't even remember what it was. It wasn't anything huge, but what happened was that I voiced an opinion she didn't like, and it dawned on me that we got along great as long as I agreed with everything she said and she wanted. And I wasn't allowed to give my own opinions or ideas about things that she might not agree with. It was a totally one-sided relationship, which a lot of my friendships back then were. So after trying to patch things up and being berated for 90 minutes on Zoom, I let her go. I had another friend who only talked about herself, and everything revolved around her. I would literally have 2-hour phone conversations, and she would never once ask me how I was doing. I tried to tell her how I felt, but she couldn't hear me, so I let her go also. This was so hard to do, but it was a great lesson. I was so used to people pleasing and doing everything for others without ever asking for any support. emotional or otherwise. And I didn't realize how poorly I was treating myself. I was so desperate for people to like me that I essentially sacrificed myself and let others suck out nearly all of my energy. And I was changing and growing into myself. I didn't have the capacity to take care of other people anymore. I used to be the one who had to organize all the get togethers. If I didn't, I wouldn't have anyone to go out with. I would also bring extra food or blankets or whatever it is if we went somewhere, because many of these people wouldn't think of bringing something for themselves, let alone enough to share. So I'd have enough for everyone in order to have some for myself. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about those friendships that are forever, even though you only see each other every few years. I have friends I might see once every 5 or 10 years, and it's like no time had passed. That's different. And I think that's healthy. I'm talking about relationships with people where you feel drained after you speak with or see them. Many friendships just drift apart. There might not be anything dramatic, like I mentioned about my people-pleasing days. There might not be a big argument or no clear ending where you can say it's over. It's like when texts go unanswered, when they used to be responded to right away, or when you realize you're always the one initiating and planning and deciding one day not to. And just a heads up, I finally did that. I was finally exhausted from always planning everything and always reaching out. And when I stopped, the phone stopped ringing. And I had to get comfortable with going out on my own. It can be a very hard transition, and it's important you not take it personally. It's just a sign that it's time to find new people to bring into your life. If you're ever in a group and feel like a ghost in the room because you aren't connecting with anyone, that's a sign you or things are changing. That happened to me when I left the music industry. It's very insular, not in a bad way, but because you work all hours, you go out all the time to shows, so your friendships are generally based around work. I had dinner with 4 people I used to work with who I still love to death. But they were all talking about what was going on in their offices, and I didn't have a thing to contribute or even know what they were discussing. So as much as I would like to have stayed in touch, I'd moved into a different space. Nothing was good or bad. I'd just moved on. And what I didn't understand back then is that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to allow a relationship to evolve or end when you've changed. So if you ever find yourself in a room like that, feeling like a ghost while everyone else is speaking a language that doesn't feel like yours anymore, doesn't mean you failed at friendship. It might just mean you've grown in a different direction. Give yourself permission to honor that, to grieve if you need to grieve, to let some connections loosen, and to trust that it's okay to move on when you've changed. And if you're sad and you feel lonely after you back away, nothing's wrong. You're simply in a transition, and change is hard for most people. Thanks for being here. If you like this video, please subscribe for more. And again, be true to you. Thanks again.